Welcome to Sports Vibes TV. I'm your host, Keith, and as always, I'm joined by our NBA analyst, Stephen Fox. Foxy, how's everything with you?
All is good. Shout out to you. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the SV Nation. I can't wait to talk New York basketball, NBA basketball. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Just had some good Indian food, so I'm energized, ready to come talk Knicks and talk about this crazy scenario that was the Donovan Mitchell trade. But we won't just stop at the Donovan Mitchell trade. We'll also talk about the team and how we're going to look moving forward. And we're also going to get into the front office because a lot of the things that have leaked have kind of disturbed me when it comes to this front office and the faith I might have in them moving forward. So with that being said, let's just jump into the chat. Say what's up to everybody that's in. Gerald MacGyver, thank you for tuning in. First Lady of Sports Vibes TV. JG, salute. He said Tibbs plays the kids, just not as much as everyone would like. Well, based on some reports by Mark Berman, there might be a little bit of pushback to that theory. We'll get into it a little bit later on in the show, but thank you for voicing your opinion. Rich Boy says Cavs and the Wolves made their moves. If it does not work for them, they'll blow it up. In 2 to 3 years, the Knicks could get Mitch or Cat, plus more young talent on the team. It is a good possibility. I mean, it is a possibility that the Knicks could be in the pursuit of those two come free agency in 25, I think is when they hit the market. But, you know, we have to get to that point where we're a very attractive destination, and that's all going to come with what the coach does and what the front office does moving forward. So that's going to be a few topics that we'll get into today. Foxy, anything you want to point out in the chat?
Yeah, just Ghetto Intellect. Hey, Brad, hope all is well. My friend Jesco, Core Mega, UBG, hope all is well with you and the family. Like you said, Geraldine, MacGyver, Bronx Fine. By way of Bronx, North Carolina's finest now. Hope everyone's great and can't wait to talk with you. As we know, as we always talk about, you are the third host of the show. So before we get into it, do us a favor, hit that like. If you have subscribed, thank you so much. Please tell a friend to tell a friend. If you haven't subscribed, do me a favor. Please subscribe. We're the one-stop shop for Knick news, rumors, and analysis. As we always talk, we work hard behind the scenes to make the show enlightening, sometimes controversial, but always entertaining. So please turn on that all reminder bell so you don't miss out on any of Sports Vibe TV. And also share the link on your favorite social media platforms. Shout out to the best mods in the planet. And last but not least, shout out to the replay gang. If you can't catch the show live, we answer all your comments. We love chopping it up with you. So can't wait to have a great show with you today.
Yep, thank you for that, Foxy. So with that being said, let's jump right into our first slide. So whenever you're analyzing trade discussions and trade negotiations, you got to start from the beginning. And Woj, he tweeted out what was initially offered from by the New York Knicks back in July. So it says, at the start of the trade talks in July, New York offered Utah a Donovan Mitchell package, including R.J. Barrett, Obi Toppin, Mitchell Robinson, and 3 unprotected first-round picks, sources tell ESPN. Jazz turned down that offer, and Robinson signed a $60 million extension to stay with New York. Now, first of all, if this deal would have went through, I would have lost my mind. I think this would have been way too much to give up for a Donovan Mitchell. And it kind of shows you that no matter what, it didn't seem like Danny Ainge was too willing to deal with the New York Knicks, because this initial offer, I believe, is much better than what the Cleveland Cavaliers received, because you look at what the Knicks would have been post-trade. I don't think we would have been as good as the Cleveland Cavaliers are post-trade. So our first-round picks would have been more valuable to a rebuilding team like the Utah Jazz. So what were some of your thoughts when you first saw this trade being rumored, not being rumored, but being mentioned by Woj?
Yeah, like you said, it jumped off that there's absolutely Ainge hates, once a Celtic, always a Celtic. He hates the Knicks because this is a better offer than the one that he accepted from the Cavaliers. And also that we need to, thank God Bellevue's in the city, because we need to get the front office's head checked. If you're offering that up for Donovan Mitchell, that's just way too much, man. We have a great respect for Donovan Mitchell's game, but, there has to be a line of, what's equity and what's overpaying. And that's overpaying, folks.
Yeah, so for me, I think the Knicks definitely dodged the bullet by not being suckered into the deal. And if this was a trade that got accepted, I think you would see the majority of fan base would have been in an uproar. You look at what Cleveland has done; they've added to their high first round draft pick in Darius Garland, from the 2019 draft. So to see us try and offer up the best prospect we have on the roster and somebody that's supposed to be a foundational piece on this team, it starts to make me question and wonder what is this front office's direction. And we're going to jump in. We're going to look at what this team would have looked like if the Knicks front office decided to move forward with the trade. So let's see exactly what we would have. So you would see we'd have Jalen, Donovan, Evan, Julius Randle, and you would assume iHeart elevated to the starting center. And then with that second team, we would have Derrick Rose. We would have had Quickly, Grimes. Grimes was a piece they refused to include in the deal. Melo, potentially, maybe we could have signed him. There's still some rumors that Melo wants to come to New York, so he could have been an option at the backup 4. And then Jericho Sims. And we would still have Deuce, Keels, Cam, and Ferron as some additional situational players. So Foxy, if you saw this team as our roster or as our lineup on opening night, how would you have felt? Would you think this team was a competitive team that would be somewhere, top 4, top 6 team in the East, or do you think we would still be a team that'd be fighting to get in the play-in?
The latter. I think that we'd all be saying this is not a championship caliber team. It's a better team than Knicks have had in a long time, but we've seen what's happening to all the teams in the East and just in the league and the distance and the elite players that they have. And that I'd look at this and say, wow, Donovan's great and Jalen, but this is, this is not really a squad I could see us going toe to toe and making damage in the playoffs. So I thought this is a great slide because it's visual. A lot of us can talk about the trade, but when you visually look at this and it sinks in and saying, okay, that's our starters. And all right, here's our second team. And all right, here's our bench and everything. You and I did some shows earlier this year about Memphis and that they went 21-6 this year without Ja, with Tyus Jones. And, that they looked at, they had Tyus Jones, Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, Jackson, Adams. And then, they had Melton, at least last year, Zaire Williams, Anderson, Clark, and Tillman. And they were 21-6 with that team. And I look at that and I'm like, no. Don's a great player, but we gave up way too much if we had to give up, RJ, Obi, and Mitch. But what I'd like to do is if you could switch maybe to what our current roster is. Hey, folks, do me a favor before he does it. Take a snapshot in your head of what the Knicks would look like if that Donovan trade went down. We're looking at the screen now, with iHeart and Sims at the 5 and Rando and not knowing Melo or Ferron who's going to play power forward on this team and Evan and Grimes and shooting guard. Obviously Donovan's a star. Let's see what the current roster is. So I have a real big favor of the SV Nation so you just saw what makes what that trade was that Woj reported on. Here's the current roster. Is it me? Or I think this is a better roster than it's a deeper roster. If you look at Jalen, Jalen played 32 minutes last year, averaged 32 minutes a game. And I think that'll be the same thing. And you know what? That's a good thing because some ways that builds in minutes management for D Rose. I think, we talked about D Rose having a last hurrah and him playing 16 minutes, I think is right in the sweet spot to keep him healthy and not overplay him. You go to the shooting guard and, what you said, there's been reports about the Knicks and, there was some reports that they even reached out as a friendship thing to Jerry West, who said the Jerry West like Grimes over RJ. So at the shooting guard, Grimes, IQ, we've always talked about him being a Lou Williams off the bench microwave scorer. Small forward, there's RJ. We'll get into RJ, but with everything, he's a really fine player. He's the 8th youngest player in history. 3,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, 500 assists. Evan is a 3-point shooter, and Cam, that's we don't know what Cam is, but if we get something out of Cam, we're tight. Looking at the power forward, folks, again, it's minutes management, but Randle, Obi, that is a tight 4. That's a great rotation. And then I personally feel probably the best unit in the whole league. Mitch, unbelievable rim protector, good shot blocker, elite offensive rebounder, iHeart, great off the bench, gives you a whole different look being able to stretch. And then Sims. So SB Nation, talk to me. You look at this current roster that we have that'll be, playing in a few weeks. You don't think this is a tighter roster than if we got Donovan and had to give up RJ, Mitch, and Obi? I'd love to hear what you think, man. So I am so happy we did not get Donovan Mitchell. And we touched on, concerns about defense and getting lit up by Brunson and Dinwiddie in the playoffs against Dallas last year. And over the last 2 years, that on-off stats that the Utah Jazz were a better team with Donovan on the bench than on, and you're like, get out of here. No, they were better. It was one thing scoring 27 points a game. Another thing is giving up 35 points when you can score 27. So looking at this roster and then getting back to what we were just talking about, Memphis. So, Tyus Jones, Desmond Bane, Brooks, Jackson Adams, Jalen Grimes, RJ Randle, Mitch. We're there, man. And then I think we've talked about this. I think we have one of the best second units in the whole league. So I am jazzed that we did not make that trade.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited that we didn't make the deal, especially seeing what the initial deal was. Even some of the deals when we ended up walking it back and trying to offer less, where it was RJ, Quick, and then, 2 first-round picks. Even that I thought would have been too much for Donovan Mitchell. And I know, some people are on the fence as to what RJ Barrett could be, but if I'm trying to build a championship contender, I'm not going to give up the one player that I'm most certain could reach that all-star level. You know what I mean? Like we all know Quick can be a solid, Quick can develop into a good player. We think Obi can develop into a good player. But if we had to take bets, we would bet that RJ Barrett is most likely on the trajectory to becoming an all-star. So why would I now focus trades around RJ Barrett to bring in or to swap for somebody that's already an all-star when I'm trying to build a championship contender? And most championship contenders, they usually have multiple all-stars on the roster. So swapping one for a guaranteed one, I think, would have been a step back as opposed to bringing in a guaranteed all-star and hoping RJ can then continue his development track to becoming an all-star player. And, looking at this roster, I prefer this roster over the roster with Donovan Mitchell wanted if we had to go through the RJ, the Mitch, and the Obi trade. But this roster still, there has to be some adjustments, especially with the coach, in Tibbs. Julius Randle, we said it time and time again, there needs to be a move made so we can open up that starting spot for Obi. And then to see Cam as a third stringer when we got Evan Fournier, backing up RJ at the 3, I think that's something else that has to be changed at some point. I know they say that the Julius Randle trade market really isn't that plentiful at the moment, but we got to see if we can get something in return for him just to free up the deal for Obi, because we held off on trading some of these young guys in a deal for Donovan Mitchell. Well, now it's time for us to invest in them, give them the time and give them the opportunity to develop their game. Because at some point, I'm not handcuffed to any individual player on the squad. I'm more so for the team that's on the front of the jersey as opposed to the name that's on the back. So I'm open to dealing some of these players in the right deal. So they have to get better. They have to be put in an environment where they can showcase the league that they are talented players. They need to be able to be put in a position to show the rest of the league what us as Knicks fans see. So that way we can get the most bang for our buck when we do try to make a trade in order to get better and push ourselves into a better playoff position or championship position.
You know what the beautiful thing is?
Shoot.
We can, because we have draft assets. We didn't give up everything, so this team can get better. If we got Donovan, that was it, folks. We were locked in. And as crazy it sounds, it's a decade. Because you can't do draft picks every year. So it's like every other year. And then those other years, because of us being a good team, as Keith has talked about purgatory, we'd be picking in the 15 or 20 spot. How are we going to make this team better? Now we can still make this team. We're a tight team. Let's get that identity back of playing New York Knicks defense and tough basketball. And like you said, a couple of tweaks. And I saw another rumor this morning, probably some of it's always clickbait, but they had two scenarios: Randle going to Charlotte for a first rounder and Gordon Hayward, and the one that I like is him going to the Lakers for Russell Westbrook and two number ones. And folks, the 27 LA Lakers 27 pick of 2027 and 2029 picks are valuable because LeBron and the team that's there won't be there anymore. So a lot of people are speculating that that's a really, whoever gets those picks are going to get really a high draft pick, because Lakers won't be good around 27 or 29 unless, something happens. So if that happens, I still like it. We move OB up, get Randle out. And then, like we've talked about, whether it's Wiggins next year, Wiggins, makes around 33 million, and get rid of Randle. Next year, Rose is making 14.5. He's not here. Next year is the last year of Evan Fournier, who makes 18. We have money to go out, and like you said, that plus drafting. It's a real deep draft. If we get a wing, if we get somebody else, we could build. If we had Donovan, we were killed. We were choking. We were choked out, man. There was no way for us to get. So that was going to be it. So like we talked about endlessly, but it's really, really important. Donovan would take us from 37 wins last year to 47, but we couldn't get past 47 because we couldn't add to that. Folks, we'll get to 500, I think, if we play. We talked about Memphis. We could play tough defense, listen, and play team ball. We could definitely be a 500, a little above that, and go from there. But I think we have more hope for our future with our current roster than if we made the Donovan Mitchell trade.
Yeah, one thing I will give the front office a little credit is in a lot of the trade packages I saw, they refused to give up the 2023s. So that's one thing I can say, give them a little bit of credit for. Let's jump into the chat, see what SB Nation has to say. Jesco says that roster is better, but not bad as well. Easy P says, no way I would trade RJ, Obi, and Mitch for Donovan. Honestly, I have no understanding as to why they would offer that. And it's even more puzzling, the fact that Danny Ainge would reject that. And then he circles back and takes an inferior package from the Cleveland Cavaliers. So it seems like Ainge was refusing to deal with us, and he was going to use us to try and get the most out of another team. Because if you look at the timeline, I believe the Cavs pulled out, and then it seems like if you go based off what T. Jones says from The Athletic, it seems like after the Cleveland Cavs pulled out, the Knicks changed their an offer, or their last best offer, from RJ, Quick, and 2 first-round picks, and tried to get it to just RJ and 2 first-round picks per T. Jones. So, I mean, that can probably be put on Gerson Rosas in the way he decides to negotiate. I mean, there are people around the league that say they aren't really a big fan of his negotiating tactics. But, I mean, you look at this team, and it's just ridiculous to me that they would even have considered doing something like that, especially when it seems like Danny Ainge was just pulling our chain. Because what would we have done if he agreed to the initial offer? At that point, we would have been stuck with a terrible deal.
Yeah, we'd be trying to find a new team to root for.
I won't go that far, but I would say we would be trying to find a new front office. That's for sure.
Yeah. Hey, what was the thing that bothered you the most about the Rosas thing that came down, that he did the negotiation?
The fact that he did the negotiation. I mean, we have Leon Rose here. He's supposed to be the one that's the power broker. He's the one that's supposed to be making the deals. Same thing with Worldwide West. Worldwide West would be the one with the back channel. So how does the guy that he hasn't even been here a full calendar year, how is he the one that's taking the charge in the most important trade negotiations for the franchise since probably the Melo deal? You would think Leon Rose, who's supposed to be the president and CEO, would be the one that would be handling that. But I guess they gave it to the new guy.
Yeah, thank you. That's what jumped off the page for me, is like saying, this is the guy that was an agent. This is the guy that's supposed to have these special relationships with both the players and the front offices and stuff. And they said that he did not even talk to Ainge during the negotiations. Yo, are you kidding me? And like you said, so yeah, this front office is bizarre. So they bring this guy in and let him do it, and it got away. And, the funny thing, folks, is I was thinking about this over, since it happened, and I thought about a few years ago when many Knicks fans were upset and disappointed that we lost out to the Nets on signing KD and Kyrie. And then in hindsight, it was a blessing. The Knicks won as many playoff games last year as the Nets. So I feel very similar with Donovan. Some things, it wasn't meant to be. And I'm glad we didn't sign him at the price, that Ainge was asking.
Yeah, so I just want to put on screen the actual excerpt from the article. It says New York Knicks consultant Gerson Rosas, formerly the executive vice president of basketball ops for the Houston Rockets and president of basketball ops for the Minnesota Timberwolves, took the lead in negotiations with the Utah Jazz, according to Gary Washburn. Per that report, Knicks president Leon Rose apparently trusted Rosas with the negotiations, and it became obvious over the past few weeks that the Knicks were in the driver's seat to acquire Mitchell, a New York native who wanted to play for the Knicks. Washburn added that Rose and Jazz CEO Danny Ainge did not speak during the negotiations, according to an industry source. So yeah, like you say, it makes no sense for him not to have his hands on everything, pause, in those type of negotiations.
That's why we hired him.
Exactly. For him to have those relationships, for him to be the one that can get us that star player at a relatively reasonable price. And he failed. Honestly, I'm happy he failed. But if you see the way or the process in which they went about it, it looked like it was an extremely flawed process. And when we discussed Rosas being brought in, we were saying it seemed like there's way too many cooks in the kitchen right now. Because I mentioned already two guys in Rose and World Wide West who we brought in to be those negotiators and the guys that can get deals done. And then we go and we bring in another guy in Rosas who doesn't really have the best image around the league. I mean, it's really hard for me to kind of put my finger on what the direction of this franchise is going to be, especially when we see that RJ Barrett is being included in the deal, because we showed you what the lineup was going to look like. How far were they expecting a trio of, Brunson, Mitchell, and Julius Randle to get us in an extremely competitive Eastern Conference?
Yeah. And folk, I really like iHeart a whole lot, but he's a really good backup center until he proves differently. He's shown, in the past that he gets in foul trouble real quick, and then saying, whoa, he's in foul trouble. We're bringing in Jericho Sims. I like Sims, but, in special matchups and stuff like that, with having a Mitch, iHeart, Sims, it gives us a whole lot of leverage. So, and also, we've seen all these different things that we know that they didn't draft RJ, but they're really showing it, by offering like he's not, we don't have any loyalty to him because we didn't pick him. And there was some speculation that they wanted to drag this out. I don't know if it was learning lessons from Julius Randle a couple of years ago, signing him too early, let him play out and earn that contract. But, it's a great contract, $107 million for a guy that, like I said, is the eighth. There's a lot of players that came into the NBA, folks, in history. And for RJ to be the eighth youngest to score 1,000 points, 3,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and 500 assists. Yeah, there's something there. And as we talked about with Brunson, I'm really excited about how Brunson, I think, is going to help not only RJ's game, but the young core in their development.
So, Foxy, I'll ask you, do you still have faith in the front office, even after after everything we've heard in terms of the trade negotiations for Donovan Mitchell, the fact that we had to undo pretty much every move we did in free agency last season, this season, the fact that we hired Tom Thibodeau, who doesn't seem like he's the right coach for a rebuilding franchise. So do you still have faith in this front office?
No, I really never had a lot of faith in this front office from day one. When you sign, Elfrid Paytons and Reggie Bullocks and players like that a couple of years ago, it's like those are marginal, journeyman type of players. Who are you signing? So then, Burks and stuff like that. Then we had to add a tax to get rid of some of those guys. And, I brought it up last week. The thing that bothered me is Cleveland, drafted Obagi. That was, so if they didn't make a trade, they have a really, really, really good upside young player. But if they do trade him, that's a real. Why didn't we draft Tyrese? He was player. He was first team all.
Why didn't we draft anybody, Foxy? Especially if we weren't going to get Spider.
But we had a guy, for use. We need a closeout, a defender. So but by having, a shutdown defender like that, 6'8", 7'2" wingspan that has nasty in him, worst case scenario, we could have included him in the package. Just like Cleveland did, Cleveland with Utah. So
like Minnesota did with Kessler.
Exactly. So why didn't we do that? So I think from day one, they've been making moves, and we talked about some guys, some guys are, I just get the feeling that he's a basketball agent and that he's not a basketball guy. And just from past experience working for giant, technology companies and working with CEOs like to delegate to committees to come up with decisions. I don't necessarily think in basketball, if Pat Riley and you need somebody, Bill Belichick in football, you need somebody that, I don't want to have a coalition here. This is my business and this is what we're doing. So that hands-off thing, whether it's Rosas it's too hands-off for me, man.
I don't mind him delegating tasks because there's a lot that comes with running a franchise. My issue is when it's something that's so important as trying to bring in a franchise talent like a Donovan Mitchell that you aren't even on the phone with the other person. To me, that's low-key disrespectful. If I'm Danny Ainge to start the trade negotiations, why am I not? If I'm doing negotiations, then I'm the number one. Why am I not talking to the other number one? Why am I talking to his flunky who's going to have to run back to him and let him know what's going on? So me personally, that would have started off the trade negotiations on the wrong foot from jump. This is supposed to be a major deal that could potentially change the long-term implications of the franchise. So for him not to be on the phone is almost, I won't say it's as bad as Phil Jackson, sleep during rookie workouts and stuff like that. But still, you legitimately sleep at the wheel if you're not involved and you don't know what's going on because you're hearing everything secondhand. Unless he's doing something sneaky and he's on the other on the other line on a three-way call just listening in. But honestly, if you're the head of a franchise and you have to do something that's this major, I want him to be the head and then to kind of rely on the people below him when he needs some additional information. But the one that's the mouthpiece for the franchise should be Leon Rose. And now you see, if he's not even the mouthpiece for these major trade negotiations, how do we expect him to come and actually talk to us as the fans and let us know what's going on?
Yeah. And then you throw in, the debacle of Cam Reddish. Obviously, he's not a Tibbs player. So how did this trade ever happen? Where was the communication of saying, hey, you're not playing him enough. Hey, Tom, I love you. We know each other a long time. Play Cam or we're going to have some issues. No, it's laissez-faire, hands off. And it's like, there's a lack of communication. We have a failure to communicate.
Yeah, it's tough. Honestly, the front office, I like what they do in the draft. I think they've made a bunch of good decisions. Honestly, one of the reasons Utah probably isn't too thrilled about doing the deal with us is because they might feel like they got fleeced. If you think about the last draft, we ended up trading back with Utah. We ended up trading back with Utah, and then we ended up doing an additional deal and ended up getting more in return for Utah's initial pick. So they might be looking at it, and they might be a little skeptical of trying to be in a situation where it seems like the Knicks got over on them again. But I mean, the way that the negotiations ended up going down, to me, it's not a good sign for what this front office is going to be able to do, both leading this team in trade negotiations and also in free agency. Because as of right now, they're 0 for 2 until we see what Jalen Brunson can do. I think Jalen Brunson can be a solid piece, but I got to see what it looks like on the court because last offseason, They spent a whole bunch of money and it really didn't result. It didn't lead to good results on the court. And now this offseason, they spent the money on Jalen Brunson, who on paper looks like he'll definitely be an upgrade, but I just got to see it.
Yep, on paper he's an upgrade, but not if there's a saboteur named Julius Randle that's not allowing Brunson to do what he came here to do and impacting the development of the young core. Yeah. So, I think the contingency plan for this team is, all right, we couldn't get Donovan. Job one is get rid of Randle.
So in chat, I put a poll up. I'm asking SV Nation, did you have you guys lost faith in the front office? It's a yes or no question. As of right now, 56% are saying that they have lost faith in the fan base. And if you have, let us know your reason in the chat. We'll discuss it. And if you haven't, let us know your reasoning as well. We'll see if we can get a good gauge as to what the fan base is feeling towards this front office. Also, we have 134 viewers in chat. Can you guys do us a solid? Smash that like button. We're only at 45. One of the staples of the live streams is we try to get as close to 100 as possible. So do us a solid. Smash that like button. It helps with the algorithm, and it helps promote the show.
Also, do us a favor. If you are new to the show, could you just put new in the chat so we can give you a proper hello and welcome to the SV Nation?
Thanks. Amino FCP asked, do you still have faith? Is that not what I said?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So do you still have faith in the? Oh, did I put? Do you still have faith? Period. Well, I meant in the front office.
No. Did you see the gas prices? I went to the food, the grocery market. The world is in World War III is coming. No, the market's crashing. It's hard to have faith, folks.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mino. Luckily, I didn't get smited on a Sunday morning asking if you still got faith. Or Sunday afternoon or evening, I guess. Let's see. Adrian Reality, salute. He says we are in great shape.
Adrian, hope all is well.
Nick Yak says if Leon thought Obi could ever replace Randle, he would never have been included in the trade. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like he was going to double down on building around Julius Randle, and that's the exact opposite of what we should be trying to do at this point. So when I saw that trade, that's why I thought there was no way RJ Barrett could be involved in the deal. Because if you trade RJ, you're pretty much saying that Julius Randle has the keys to the organization alongside, he'd be driving shotgun to Donovan Mitchell. And I feel like that pairing is never going to get us to the place where we need to be in order to win a championship. And that's the ultimate goal. So I can live with not winning a championship this season or even next season, as long as we're taking steps towards that goal. And if we start the season with, Julius Randle getting the bulk of minutes, Evan Fournier getting the bulk of minutes, then I just don't see how we're going to reach that final step of lifting the championship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think the good news, if he does some of that, we can be 3-7 and 5-15 real quick. And that'll put pressure on the front office with Tibbs and maybe Johnny Bryan time or whatever. But if we don't come out with our head straight and with the right attitude, the first 20 games, it could be a nightmare.
Yeah, this is a tough stretch. What do we have? We have the Bucks. We have the Nets. We have the 76ers. Who else do we have during that tough stretch? I think that's like the first 15 games.
Yeah, I'm telling you, we could have a 7-game losing streak easy. So that's why, I have faith in Brunson. I have faith in RJ and, the young core. The only one I don't have faith in is Tibbs and Randle.
Yes, I'm looking at the schedule. We start the season off against the Grizzlies. The next team you might have some concern about, maybe the Hornets, but they're in disarray. But then you got the Bucks, you got the new look Cavs, you got the Hawks, you got the 76ers, you got the Celtics, the new look Timberwolves. So we're facing two of the revamped teams that Utah Jazz tried to help get better. And we're facing the Nets. And then after that, it's a little drop off in competition against the Pistons and the Thunder and the Jazz. But then right again, you're against the Nuggets, you're against the Warriors, and then you're against the Sun. So, my biggest concern right now is the fact that these young players were included in the deal. How are they going to respond? You have to remember when Jalen Brunson got signed, the New York Knicks were so afraid of what the media might do in terms of bum rushing his press conference and asking a whole bunch of trade questions that they barred the media from entering. So what are we going to expect this training camp when the media is now given access to some of these young guys and they're going to be asking them questions after questions? RJ, there's reports that the Knicks really didn't want to give you that contract extension. Their hands were forced because they wanted to save face because of the Mitchell fallout. What are they going to say to Emmanuel Quickley? Hey, Emmanuel Quickley, you were out, mingling with Donovan Mitchell all throughout, Westchester, how does it feel to know that you were actually included in some of the trade talks? What about Obi? The team, you were the first selection of this front office, yet they dangled you in a potential trade deal. How are you going to react? How are you going to respond? So that's what I'm going to be a little bit concerned about come training camp. How are these young guys going to respond to some of the pressure and the adversity? Because it's up now. Quentin Grimes, they wouldn't include Quentin Grimes in the deal because they felt like he was a better long-term prospect than RJ. Well, he's going to have that pressure. Everybody's going to look at it. Why did Quentin Grimes not get included in the deal? And he might end up, struggling at some point in the season, which is going to happen. These are young players. They're going to struggle. The question now is going to be, how are they going to overcome any of these adversities and try to drown out the noise?
Well said. And folks, we're only a blink away from training camp, and it's weird. October 4th is our first game. Also, Derrick Rose's birthday. He'll be turning 34 on our first preseason game.
Yeah. So speaking of,
hey, I think we have a super chat.
Oh, we do?
Yep. From our friend Adele Chapman.
Oh, salute Adele.
Daddy to the pretty little princess Avery, the princess of the Knick Nation.
Yeah, salute Adele. Thank you for the super chat. Adele's also in our Discord group. I have the link down in the description. So if you ever want to join the Discord and chop it up with Fox here and I when we're not streaming, feel free to join. And also, if you're going to join the show and talk to us live during a live stream, that would be the best avenue to do so as well. So Adele Chapman says, can Leon survive missing the playoffs? No. I don't think he can survive missing the playoffs. I don't think Tibbs can survive missing the playoff, especially after the blunder that it looks like the Leon Rose front office had with not securing the Donovan Mitchell trade.
I'm with you. And like we also talk about, and the thing that is back in my mind, even if we do make the playoffs, Tibbs is 25-36 lifetime in the playoffs, 2-8 in the last two series, losing 4-1, 4-1. Because of those mid-game, you can't do mid-game adjustments and stuff like that. So I hope the Tibbs watch is on early, and it will be with this schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I can't see an avenue where the team misses the playoffs and Leon keeps his job, but Tom Thibodeau won't keep his job because in that instance, you would hope that the young guys, they're still getting minutes and they're still at least getting better. And that's the only way you would see Leon keep his job if the young players are still performing and still showing, steps to getting better. But even then, if I think the young guys are getting better, we probably at least make the play-in.
Yep. I'll tell you one thing, though, that I would do. If I was the owner of the Utah Jazz, I'd be calling Ainge in and saying, you ever pull shit like that, I will fire your ass in a half a second. You had I'm serious. Don't you pull this spite shit. Don't you use my club, my team for your own attitude that if you could have gotten RJ, Obi, Mitch plus that's a hell of a lot better than we just got. So what are you doing? Don't let your emotions get better part of doing what's best for the long range of this team. And I think Ainge absolutely showed his hate. He was blinded by his hate for either Leon or the Knicks or whatever it was, and he took an offer that wasn't as good.
Yeah. So let me close the poll. See how everybody feels about the front office. So by the end of the poll, it says, I gotta scroll down, my bad. It says, do you still have faith in the front office? 64% say yes, 35% say no. So people still feel like the front office is doing things in the right way. Me personally, I would disagree. I'm not a big fan of some of the moves they made, but I think they still have the approval of the majority of the fan base based by those splits, 64% to 35%.
Yeah. Is it all right if I say hi to a couple of our friends?
Yeah, feel free.
Yeah. So again, Adele, thank you for your generosity. Hope all is well with you and the family. You touched on Adrian Reality earlier, Keith Turner, East Blue Drew, EBD, as I like to call him. Hope all is well. Adult Donkeys, DBR. Hey, haven't seen you in a while. It's been a minute, so I hope all is well. Knicks Nation, Shimmy MD. Again, a lot of people that in comments on the replay gang. Keith Turner, buzzer beater. I enjoyed talking hoops with you this past week. So everybody, just wanted to say hi again. Do us a favor. 155 in the chat. 67 likes. Please hit that like. Do us a solid if you have subscribed. Thank you so much. Please tell a friend to tell a friend. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We promise you it's the one-stop shop for all Knicks news, rumors, and analysis. As we always say, we work hard that it's enlightening, sometimes controversial, but always entertaining. Please hit that all reminder bell so you don't miss out on any of the wonderful content from Sports 5 TV. Please share the link on your favorite social media platforms. Shout out to the best mods in the planet. We appreciate all you do.
Also, shout out to Silvery Gray. Says to a poll on trust in Thibodeau. And we'll get into Thibodeau once we finish up with the front office. But just to get into the front office just a little bit more before we move forward, just wanted to put
just
this
real
on
quick,
screen.
one thing. Just wanted to say, everyone, just reach out. Anthony R. just subbed. We really appreciate you being new. Let us know if you're new. Anthony R., thank you so much for joining. We really, really appreciate it.
Appreciate the support. Thank you. Also, thank you for pointing that out, Foxy. I appreciate it.
Asset YP24, there's your shout out. I don't miss you, Asset.
Salute, Asset. Yeah, sometimes we may miss it. There's a lot going on with the stream, running it behind the scenes, both for Foxy and I. So if we miss anything, just let us know in the chat and we'll try to get to it as quickly as possible. All right, so Foxy wanted to discuss this article here, talking about Quentin Grimes and RJ Barrett. I really didn't think that there was a comparison between the two, but it looks like the front office feels like Grimes might be the better long-term bet. So here the article says the Knicks made it a priority to keep Quentin Grimes in any Donovan Mitchell deal. Sources told David Aldridge of The Athletic. Grimes, who the current Knicks front office drafted, averaged 6 points and 2 rebounds in his rookie season. Aldridge added that the Knicks were not necessarily convinced that RJ Barrett was worthy of a contract extension. That sentiment echoes earlier reports that the team preferred not to give Barrett his extension until at least October. So how do you feel about this team and this front office always pivoting? It feels like they don't stick to their guns. The smallest thing happens and they completely switch it up. How do you feel about them preferring Grimes long-term as opposed to an RJ Barrett, and how would you rank them?
I think RJ has a higher upside than Grimes. I like Grimes a whole lot. We talked about his lack of athleticism and separation. Hopefully his handles will get better, but he's a really good three-point shooter. But he did shoot 68% from the foul line. He shot 40% field goal percentage, 38. We said 38% from three, which is great. But we're hoping he's not much of a mid-range game. So hopefully, we saw some passing in summer league. We saw him going to the hole. And hopefully, maybe they're assessing that he could be a baby Clay for us. We know he's tough as nails on defense. I love his attitude that way. I just wish he was a little bigger, man. Pause. And I just hope, it's funny that there was some rumors that the Knicks front office called in favors of Jerry West, and Jerry West said that he liked Quentin Grimes over RJ Barrett, but Jerry West also likes Sidney Moncrief over Magic Johnson. But hey, I think if Grimes could become our baby Clay, I'm all down for that.
Yeah, I think for him to be a Clay type is still some ways for him to go. I think you look at Clay, just the size difference. Clay is 6'6", almost 6'7", about
real
210,
6'6", yeah.
215. Grimes is 6'4", maybe 200.
16 change in his bare feet. Yep.
Yeah, so I can see where people might say it based on their archetype or their play style, but I think it's going to be a stretch for him to become a Clay type, honestly, or as anywhere near what Clay has been for the Warriors. You look at what Clay has done with his shooting stroke, his defense.
Stunning, yeah.
So I would love for Quentin Grimes to become a Clay type, but I think it's more likely that RJ Barrett becomes an all-star than it would be for a Quentin Grimes to become that Clay type. So I think the Knicks probably should have sold high on Grimes as opposed to trying to include an RJ Barrett in the deal personally. For me, when I heard that, I was like, what's going on with their talent evaluation? I know RJ Barrett isn't really the most explosive athlete, but there's a lot of good things RJ Barrett does out there on the court, and we've seen year over year he's gotten better. The efficiency is still isn't there, but I think if you look at what this team has put out there with him, then we haven't really given him the best opportunity or given him the best players around him to kind of flourish. So for them to kind of pick Grimes over RJ was kind of was perplexing to me. I know Grimes is their draft pick, but still, talent is talent, regardless of who drafted him. And you should go by who's going to have the highest ceiling. And I think even floor, RJ is probably has the higher floor as well. So I just didn't get it.
Yeah, and it's I think you touched on something really important about what happens when it doesn't go their way. So you just shared Woj's thing of saying, "Hey, we're going to offer you RJ, we're going to offer you Obi, and we're going to offer you Grimes. What was it, Grimes? No, it was Obi, RJ, and Mitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, +3." But so when that didn't go down, what was the first thing they did? They signed him to a $60 million contract, Mitch.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I went, whoa, that's even more than Robert Williams on Boston. What's up with that? All right. 25, the cap changes. Cool. And it's a descending contract. All right. And then what happens is a very similar thing. Hey, let's get this Donovan. Oh, it doesn't work out. Let's sign RJ real quick. So it's the same thing they did with Mitch is all right, sign him. And like David Aldridge is saying, they wanted to wait. And yeah, let's see how he comes out. He started slow. And like we said, learn from the Julius Randle of a couple of years ago, bring him to, let him earn that contract. But I think they're like saying to themselves, and I can understand it too, $107 million in today's folks is a really good contract for somebody that was the 8th youngest kid to score, 3,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and 500 assists. So I think they got him that, but I think I'm worried if they waited and he played out, then they'd have to sign a max with him or close to a max. He gave up over 60 some odd $1 million, potentially. So I think it's a value contract either way. I think people in this league would believe in RJ. It's not easy to score 20 points. And I think real talent evaluators would know that his inefficiency is directly related to a young man trying to do too much on a crummy team.
Exactly. Yeah.
And no point guard.
No point guard. You got a ball hog and Julius Randle, and you've got a not so progressive, I guess you want to be polite, coach. But talking about
no innovation.
No innovation whatsoever. I can't remember the last time I saw a player cut. Honestly, the first time I probably saw a Tom Thibodeau coached player cut was when we traded for Cam. And it was like a breath of fresh air. I was like, oh my gosh, we can do that? That's actually something that players can do on the court? I was like, oh, okay. Need to see some more of that. So speaking of Tom Thibodeau, let's look at this roster. And, the title of the live stream is, time to play the kids. And Mark Berman, he had his report on the post where it says, it doesn't seem like Tom Thibodeau is going to do that. Tom Thibodeau is a coach that's trying to win. He's a coach that at this point, he has to win. I don't see Tom Thibodeau having a losing season, missing the playoffs and staying because, I know this is a rebuilding team, but the front office has made some moves that don't really necessarily go step in step or hand in hand with a rebuilding squad. And, Berman has already said he's going to rely on his veterans. He said, don't expect Sims to be a meaningful member of the rotation. Julius Randle, he's entrenched at the 4. And we still don't know what's going to happen with Evan Fournier because now we have a glut of players that can play either the 2 or the 3. And it's, one of them is a veteran who's going to box out some of the young guys that we really need to get the minutes to develop. And that's going to be, either Cam or either Cam or Quentin Grimes. So with Evan Fournier blocking them and Tom Thibodeau being a coach that's going to rely heavily on his veterans, I don't see those two getting the requisite minutes for them to get better out there on the court. Same thing with Quick. We have Derrick Rose still on the roster. There were reports that they didn't want to give Derrick Rose up. in the trade because he's a favorite of Tibbs. What is that going to mean for Emmanuel Quickly's development? I mean, yes, there's debates whether or not Quick is a point guard, but we could still see him out there as a backup one with that second unit because he's able to be, energetic, get them up and down the court. He's good with the pace, pushing the pace and staying within himself, not losing too much control. So with guys like Evan and Randle still on this team and a coach like Tom Thibodeau, what are you expecting? Do you think that Tom is going to actually change who he is as a person and as a coach just to accommodate the roster that he's been given? Even though that's what a good coach does, they make some accommodations based on the talent that they're given and try to build a proper, scheme around them.
Yeah, as we talked about, just watching the championship this year is the rotation that Kerr had. He had 12 players. He played some of the kids, got everybody in there. The thing that's working in our favor, there's no Taj, there's no Burks. So his only veteran that he could go to is D Rose. And the beauty that I mentioned earlier is that he's still going to play. Jalen is his godson, so he's still going to play him 30 to 32 minutes, which means where I don't worry about, hey, D Rose is a very special player. So if he has something left in there, and we've seen in the past the chemistry between D Rose, IQ, and Obi, they could light up. Evan is, the thing I talked about. I'm worried about the shooting on this team. He's still a sniper. You see the teams over the years, Kyle Korvers and JJ Reddick's, and it's good to have a 3-point guy like that. But like you said, we have a glut of, but only one guy that's 6'8" with over a 7-foot wingspan for the 3 position in Cam. And we don't know whether he will be shipped out. The Lakers, there's a lot of stuff. So I think that he's going to go, he's going to do it. He's going to run his players into the ground. RJ, last year, RJ played 34 minutes, around 35. The same thing with Randle, 35 minutes, 25 for Mitch. So I think that he's going to play these guys. And like I said, Jalen played 32. So I think he's going to be playing those guys a whole lot. And, hopefully, but also we saw last year so many times the second team brought us back. So, but I think he's an old dog. I just don't think it's within him to just say, I'm going to open up, I'm going to have a bigger rotation, and I'm going to, cut Randall's. I can't have less than 20 minutes for Obi. So I need somebody on the sideline to say, at 25, no more than 25 or so minutes for Randle, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Honestly, I mean, when the season starts and they put the starting lineups out there, Fournier starting, I'm going to lose it.
There's a real good shot. I'm with you.
I'm going to lose it, especially with the fact that they put so much emphasis or so much weight behind Quentin Grimes as a trade piece. You're telling me he's not somebody that you would involve in Donovan Mitchell discussions, but yet he's still not good enough to start over Evan Fournier? And then they wonder why people don't want our players, because we're telling them that they're not better enough to start over some of these journeyman veterans out there. And I know Evan Fournier is a dynamic shooter, but I mean, the defense that he gives up, the points he gives up, I don't want him out there for extended minutes. I think if you are able to hide him with that second unit, 20, 22 minutes a game until you're able to find somebody to take him off your hands, I think that would be the ideal way for Tibbs to run his rotations. But that report by Berman has me extremely nervous because it goes contrary to the report that was from SNY, where it said that Tibbs was open to playing one of the young guys a little bit more than one of his veterans. And that had me feeling like, okay, maybe this is something that we can buy into. Maybe Tibbs was finally learning his lesson. But then for Mark Berman to kind of come back, I think it was within the same day, maybe even a few hours after, on the New York Post YouTube stream and a YouTube channel, and saying what he said during that interview has me extremely concerned, especially seeing that this team didn't really do anything in the draft to bring in a young player. And the fact that we still have some players that Tibbs can kind of rely on over some of the young guys. So we haven't taken away all his toys just yet.
Yeah, you and I, folks, I don't know if you know, Keith and I are big mixed martial arts fans. And, Tibbs is like a guy that the minute he gets hit, he reverts back to all he knows. So under the stress of a game and everything, I think he's just going to be who he is, Tibbs. And We didn't see Johnny Bryan. We didn't see Kenny Payne. We didn't see anybody. Woody and nobody getting in his ear saying, hey, get Randle under control, or, the guys have nothing left in the final 5 minutes of the game because you played him all the third quarter. Come on. No, he's just going to give him that dirty look and, I am the boss here. Shut the hell up. And this is what we're going to play. And I felt at the end of the year, he gave everybody lip service. He did a judo move. Basically, it's like, you didn't play, one of the things, if I could do it all over again, I play the kids again. Just by saying that, he took a lot of pressure off himself. Mm-hmm. But now it's back to the reality again. It's like, nah, that's 100 years ago. Now I'm going to play the vets, like Berman said, but thank God we don't have as many vets.
Exactly.
So, and if D Rose can show any flashes of his youth, I have no problem with him playing 16 to 18 minutes. And like I said, IQ is a dynamite shooter when he can square up. So him being in that catch and shoot position from D Rose driving, the same thing with Evan on that second team for 3-pointers. Obi in transitions, an animal. iHeart the same. That second team could light it up. So, we'll see. Hey, the bottom line is D Rose won't be here next year. So that's why I'm hoping that as the season progresses and stuff like that, that they take the pulse and saying, hey, we got to look to the future. If we make a run and everything, that's cool. But if it's showing, get IQ in that position, D Rose, maybe reduce his time, put IQ in, and find out if he's the deal at the point guard.
Yeah, I mean, I think get rid of D Rose too. Get rid of all of them: Rose, Randle, Evan, the trio. Yeah. And I say that respectfully. I say that respectfully.
Yeah, the first thing I thought of, Keith and I were talking earlier today, and folks, I don't know if you saw it, that Lonzo Ball is not going to start the season, man. His knee is lit. The one that he had surgery on. Mm-hmm. So he's having major problems. So the first thing in my head, selfishly, is like, maybe they'll take D Rose back home and we can get Pat Williams or get somebody, with some young blood in here to, or a draft or something like that.
Well, they actually play their young guys over there. So Ayo DeSumo is just going to get extended minutes. Unlike us, where we have Deuce sitting on the pine or playing over in Westchester.
Yeah, I like Deuce, and I don't think there's a player that's going to benefit more from Jalen Brunson than Deuce, and that's sitting on the bench because they're both 6'1" guards, and Deuce is going to learn why is Jalen unstoppable and magnificent. He has everybody talks about Kyrie, and rightly so. One of the best handles in basketball is Jalen Brunson. He's unbelievable. His hezzy dribble he's phenomenal. Deuce from osmosis, watching him in practice, talking to him. Jalen's good people. I'm hoping that Deuce learns so much from Jalen at that size, how to create separation, how to see the passing lanes, how to see the shooting lanes, how to get to the hole, how to do things. And you know what? Him having those two guys in front of him, that's a real good teacher. And like you said, he was a man among boys in the G League. So hopefully, we know he's a dog on D. It's just giving him an opportunity to do other things, and I think Jalen's going to really help his game one way or the other.
Yeah, and it's not just his handle too. Jalen Brunson's footwork and also the physicality. Like you see, a lot of the times when he's able to get into the paint, sometimes he doesn't really have the space he needs to get off a good shot, but he's able to use his physicality, use that secondary bump in order to get enough space from his defender to then finish down in the paint. And there's also a reason why he's not able to get as blocked as much. So even maybe RJ can look towards a Jalen Brunson to see how he's able to get down there into the paint and get that creation and that separation for him to get open looks both at the mid-range level and also finish it at the cup.
Said.
Let's see what we have going on the chat. Fabian Perspective Clip says, it's not a real tank, it's a fan tank. I'm prepared for the coach blunder. The Black God 2K20 says, respect is due, fam. Rose was a big part. He was a big part, but he also can't stay healthy. So instead of, relying on him heavily with that second unit and having to figure out what to do if he does go down and kind of throw off the rotation, I say let's get what we can for him, move him in a trade, see if we can get some more pieces that can help us build a stronger roster moving forward, and give the keys to IQ. Let's see what IQ can do. And if IQ it doesn't work out, then hey, maybe we can head into the draft next year, into free agency next year, and say, all right, we tried the experiment with IQ running the second unit at the point guard. He'd probably better fit at the 2. then you can go in the draft, try to bring in a point guard, another point guard, or in free agency, bring in a backup point guard, and then have IQ just focus on being at the 2. But we can't make that determination without seeing what he can do. And with Derrick Rose there, it's going to continue to throw a wrench into the situation. You know, yes, we saw some positive results when we traded for Derrick Rose initially, but I said, you know, we should be giving Emmanuel Quickly every opportunity to see whether or not he can play that one. And then once we can come to that determination to whether he can or can't, then we can start trying to make other moves to see if we can bring in other players or if we can move him over to the 2.
Yeah, and as we talked about, he's a student of the game. So sometimes that doesn't always, translate that even though they study their heart out, processing it under the duress of a basketball game, it doesn't come out. But like you said, hey, I don't, Vegas has us picking 12 and 23 right now. We're not going to, Scoot Henderson's going to go 1 or 2. But there's a kid, Anthony Blackett at Arkansas, who, he's Josh Giddey with a jump shot. He could hit threes. He's 6'7", so he's a big point guard that can see those passing lanes. So, yeah, it would be nice to have a backup guy like that. So, but let's see if Quick can do that, because then we can maybe go other areas. There's a lot of studs in this draft coming this year, and I'm glad we have the draft choices at this point, at least in time. So, but D Rose was a special player, but I'm with you. If we can get an opportunity to get, hey, the one thing that we learned from Golden State and a lot of teams, you're much better off having a couple of shitty seasons and getting high draft choices than to play and picking in the 15, 20 range. As we talked about, and you see on this roster, you get a lot of really happening role players, but very seldom you ever get an elite player.
Yeah, so let's close the chat and see what everybody feels about Tibbs and poll. Okay, it says, do you think Tibbs will play the kids meaningful minutes? So 53% say yes, they believe he will. And then we have 46% that say no. Well, I mean, let's hope he goes with the 53% of y'all and actually plays Quick, Obi, and even Cam some meaningful minutes. We didn't speak too much on Cam, but I think Cam has the most potential of the young guys on this roster. And for Tibbs to not find any fit for him on this team after we traded for him last season, I think that is a terminatable offense on his own. The fact that you have... Go ahead.
Your audio got a little loud for a sec.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Is it better? That's
cool.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, yeah.
And we have a super chat, too.
Oh, we got a lot of things going on. Maybe that's why maybe that's why the volume went up.
Pump up the value.
Pump up the value. Yeah, I hear you. Well, Buzzer Beaters, appreciate the super chat. He says define meaningful minutes. So that's playing Obi in excess of 24 to 26 minutes per game. That's him playing Emmanuel Quickly around that same time, 22, 23 minutes. And Quentin Grimes, I want him to start as opposed to coming off the bench behind an Evan Fournier. So if I were to, state what I view meaningful minutes as, that's how I would set it up for each player. And also Cam. What did Cam average in the few games he played? 12 minutes? 10, 12 minutes?
14.1.
That's terrible. Cam should be playing 26 minutes if possible. He needs to be out there to develop his game, especially if he has the potential that a lot of us believe he does have. So it's going to be hard for him to get into the flow of things and get into a groove or a rhythm with his teammates if you're not allowing him to be out there in some meaningful minutes to kind of find himself. He's a young player.
You better get him the hell out of here. You're 100% right.
Exactly. All right. So, Foxy, let's pivot a little bit and get into an alternative trade for an alternative trade target after this Donovan Mitchell trade fell through, and that's going to be SGA. So Bill Simmons, he was on his podcast, and he mentioned that SGA could be the next trade target for the Knicks if they try to go out and make a splash. So Bill Simmons said this on the podcast. He said, last thing on the Knicks, and then we can wrap. I just feel like there's more dudes out there. For instance, you just mentioned OKC. Are we sure you can get Are you sure you can't get SGA from OKC? Are we sure like the 80% of the haul for Mitchell? SGA would cost somewhere probably a little more than DeJounte Murray and less than Mitchell, somewhere in there. If I'm the Knicks, is that a better outcome? If I can keep RJ Barrett and add SGA and I can throw some unprotected picks in there and Grimes and whoever. And if I'm OKC, how many years in a row can you tell SGA, like, hey, man, it's not going to be this year? It's like at some point you lose your mind if you're just on these bad teams that are never heading anywhere. And the Chet thing makes me wonder if SGA is going to be available. I had heard he was available before. That's another thing I thought. Once I saw that the Chet injury happened, could the team decide, all right, let's try to tank again and move off of SGA because they have a Josh Giddey, and Josh Giddey, somebody that needs the ball in his hands to kind of create for himself and others, that they may be willing to trade SGA, who's getting paid a decent amount of money right now, if I'm not mistaken. What was his total contract value? I think it was
5 year, 173 million.
So he's already making the big bucks, and you have the
max contract.
You have the OKC Thunder, that they're a rebuilding team. So could we go over there and try to poach SGA from them, especially if what Bill Simmons says is true, if it's going to fall somewhere between DeJounte Murray and the Donovan Mitchell trade? Also, I think SGA is a much better fit when you look at his profile. 6'6". He's got the legitimate size of a 2, and
or 3.
Or a 3 if you want to. But I mean, if SGA is on this team, I'd probably have RJ Barrett playing the 3 more so than SGA playing the 3. So I like SGA as a player. He's a scorer. He's somebody that can get into the paint and finish. And also, he can play make as well. He can find his teammates and set players up out there on the court with him. So he's a player that I would definitely be interested in if I can get him at a similar for a similar trade package as a Donovan Mitchell, especially if I can pair him with an RJ Barrett instead of going crazy and trying to trade RJ in a deal. And also, one thing people aren't saying about the RJ Barrett that I think the RJ Barrett extension that I think is good is it allows us to target these type of players. Because if we had RJ Barrett on a rookie extension that was maxed out, it would eliminate some of these players that we are trying to go out there and we could potentially try to go out there and trade for. So that's one way RJ Barrett's extension has helped us, and I think it's going to be extremely valuable. The same way Donovan Mitchell's contract was valuable, and it allowed the Cleveland Cavaliers to trade for him and get him on the same roster as a Darius Garland.
A lot of people realize that if we maxed out RJ, that would have been 5 year, 188 million. So getting him for 107 million plus incentives, adding up to 120 million is a good contract. But to just address what you were saying, I like getting SGA a hell of a lot more than I like us getting Donovan Mitchell. Like you said, his size, both sides of the ball. He scored 24.5 points last year, almost 6 assists, 5 rebounds, 45%, a blink away from 50%, 45% field goal percentage. Only shot 30%. It was an outlier, but he only shot 30% from 3 last year, but an 81% foul shooter. I like good foul shooters. So, yeah, I would, if it costs less than Donovan and a few other things, I definitely, you won't be, it's very difficult to get a player of SGA's quality, man. So having, like you said, SGA with those playmaking capabilities next to Brunson at the 2, RJ at the 3, and if we get rid of Randle at the 4, that'll be, Broadway, Barrett and company, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a roster that I think you look at it and you can say they can grow, they can continue to get better, and the sky's the limit. That roster as is it a championship contending roster? No, but 2-3 years from now, when RJ's a lot better, when SGA continues to develop and get better, and we start to bring in more pieces, that's a foundation where you can say, all right, I can see how these two guys can spearhead a team toward an NBA championship. You look at, Donovan Mitchell and Julius Randle, I really can't say the same. Even same thing with Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson, I couldn't say the same. Because honestly, Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson, a lot of people were looking at that combo and they were saying that's not going to be enough to win a championship. So how could we then try and trade for a Donovan Mitchell, pair him for a Brunson, and think Julius Randle was going to be the guy that's going to help get us over the hump? I just really didn't see how that was going to be the best case of action for the New York Knicks.
I'm with you. It's kind of weird to think that if we did get SGA and we kept Randle, we'd have an all lefty lineup of Brunson, SGA, RJ, Randle, and if Hartenstein played, we'd have 5 lefties.
Well, Hartenstein would have started in that trade. Well, in the Mitchell trade.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting. But I mean, people beef about a lefty
All
lineup.
righties.
Yeah, most lineups are all righties, and
Yeah,
people still find ways to score and get what they want offensively.
sure.
All right, so let's ask the chat. Let's see what SV Nation believes. Do they think the Knicks should target SGA? Should the Knicks pivot and target SGA? Yes or no?
While Keith is doing that, folks, we have 98 likes. We're only 2 likes away from that 100 metric that we love. So do us a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on that all reminder bell so you don't miss out on any of the wonderful content. Please share the link on your favorite social media platforms. And again, shout out to the best mods on the planet, Lex the Destroyer, Justin L, Canal, Adele Chapman, so many of the mods. We appreciate all you do.
And want to cut you off, Foxy? But we hit that 100 threshold, 100 likes. Actually, we're at 105. Thank you guys for supporting the channel and actually smashing that like button and getting us over the 100 threshold. But of course, we are just a little bit greedy. So now we're going to ask you this, if you guys could potentially get us to that 150 threshold. So thank you once again. We appreciate all your support. And we have a poll in the chat. We want to know, should the Knicks pivot and try to target SGA? If you put yes, then that means clearly what it says. And if you put no, I would assume you think we should, stand pat, continue to stay the course and see what we have these young guys do on the roster this season.
Yeah. Still, Dre, our friend, said all focus should be on moving vet contracts.
An Apple fact. Same thing as in the offseason. Should there be any pause or any stopping from trying to complete that goal? We should try to move off of Julius Randle. I mean, at first, I was saying I didn't want to trade Julius Randle. I wanted to get some legitimate value for him. But at this point, if we can get 2 first-round picks for him, then I think that's probably the most value we will get. And I think the biggest addition would just be the subtraction of his, I don't want to say attitude, but his demeanor from the locker room, as well as his contract from the salary cap. Because right now we're paying 3 players about $300 million, and they've only got one All-Star appearance between the 3, and that's Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, and RJ Barrett. So if we can free up Julius Randle's 26, it's going to be like $26 to $30 million throughout the duration of the contract, I think that'll allow us to bring in more pieces to build around an RJ and build around a Brunson and make us, that much more attractive to opposing teams. Also, maybe we can get a little bit better trade filler as well if we free up Julius Randle, bring in some players that can contribute, and maybe when we do a deal a year or 2 down the line, we can use them as some trade filler as well. Try to save some young players just to make the salaries match.
See our friend Keith Turner. Hope all is well with you and your family. He says SGA is overpaid and overrated. Keith, I'll use the same analogy that with RJ, that he's playing on a really bad team. So it's really hard. If you see talent evaluators talk about SGA, they talk very highly of him. So it's very hard when you're playing on a crummy team to really look good. Your efficiency, a lot of parts of your game, you're trying to do too much. So I think him coming here with an RJ and with a Brunson be a really good place for him to showcase his skills and, play within, a team, structure.
Yeah. What you call it? Let me see. Don Hines says no one would give up 2 first picks for Randle. Well, we're just going off of the reports, and that was one of the trades that was reported. If I'm not mistaken, it was Brickbrook and a couple firsts to take on that additional year's salary. And I mean, we would send Julius Randle over there. It's be far-fetched to think the Lakers would want to pay Julius Randle that type of money. But if they feel like he's a good fit between LeBron and Anthony Davis, then that would at least give them a better chance to win a championship.
If I was those draft picks would be 5 and 7 years out, folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see what else we have going on. Keith Turner says I laughed when he said 2 first-round picks for Randle. Hey, that'd be a finesse right there. I'm with it. If they were to say that right now, I think we would be jumping for joy.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got going on. Don Hines said we'd have to give up picks to trade Randle. That's another thing that I'm concerned about. His trade value is in the tank. Reports are there aren't too many teams that are interested. The Lakers were rumored to be one because they wanted to get rid of Brickbrook. The Phoenix Suns, they were another team that was rumored to be interested in Julius Randle because I think Julius Randle said it himself. He felt like with rim diving centers, it kind of pushes him out towards the perimeter. So maybe if he's with a big that can stretch the court a little bit, he might be a little bit more productive out there. So if you were to pair him with an Ayton, maybe that might be a team that we could try to reach out to and see if we can get a deal done. But I mean, based on what he's done recently, it's going to be real hard to get good value for what Julius Randle could be when he had his mind right.
Yeah, and if we talked about the pressure that last week's show that Utah wanted to get this done before training camp for this young rookie coach. If I was the Knicks, if they have any hope for letting Brunson be Brunson and RJ and the young core develop, get Randle out of here before training camp so they can start fresh. Don't have that in the locker room, and go through all their practices and stuff with OB and the players, but do it before training camp. So, don't stretch this shit out, please.
Yeah. Want to shout out Will Bill. He says, who do we trade? Everyone seems untouchable. To me, the only untouchable on this roster is RJ Barrett. I mean, I would like Cam to be an untouchable, but they're not playing him, so they definitely wouldn't do that. So to me, everybody else can be had for a reasonable price. I mean, we were discussing the Mitchell trade. I think we were both open to trading Obi and Grimes and a couple, 2 to 3 first-round picks if that was what it took to get the deal done.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, folks, again, if you're new to the chat, please just put the word new so we can give you a proper shout-out and welcome. And this is the time of the show. We love hearing your questions and your comments so we can, just chop it up with you.
Let's see. KD... No, FYUDBN says, if it were the Knicks, would have done it last year. I'm guessing that would be the trade for SGA or the trade Randle.
I don't know, but he said he had a comment right prior to that said trading Randle is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, trust
Facts.
me. I think they would have. I think the front office is at this point open to trading Julius Randle. We did hear some murmurings. There's a lot more chatter around a Julius Randle trade than we've heard at any other junction in his Knicks tenure. Almighty Finesses, would you guys want OG Anunoby? We discussed that during our last stream. I think, Foxy, you said you were against it. You didn't like his injury history.
I love everything else about him. Prototype size. I wish he was about 10, 15 pounds less, but I love everything about him, but his injury history. He's had two major, he tore his ACL in college. He's had two major bone injuries. Last year he missed so much because of calf injury. He's broke, finger injuries. So I don't want to do that. I'm old. So I went through Antonio McDyess and other guys. They just don't want to bring a player that has an injury history.
Yeah, I'd be open to OG. I think OG, he'd be cheaper than SGA, cheaper than Donovan Mitchell. So if we can bring him in here and not give him too many of the assets if we can bring him in here and still have the assets to make additional moves, to bring in some more players outside of that OG Anunoby trade, then I'd be open for it. I think he'd fill the spot being that athletic wing defender. It would then make Cam Reddish a little bit more expendable in the deal. So maybe we can try to see if we can add to the roster that way. But I'd be open to OG if he were available. The only thing is you're dealing with another GM.
Yeah, if you think age is good, Ujiri will really fleece us. He won't give us value.
Exactly. What else we got going on here? Somebody mentioned something about Siakam.
Yeah, he's a nice player, man. I don't know what it would take to get him, but if we can get Randle and have Siakam as our 4, he's a serious player.
Mm-hmm. Mansa Dushawn, New York Knicks, says Tibbs' handling of Cams is a fireable offense. Facts. The front office, too. You're going to go trade for a player and you don't even know if your coach is going to use him or have use for him? Or at least if you're going to trade for a young, talented player like that, you tell the coach, listen, we're making this move for the long-term health of the franchise. So you better play this guy when he comes into this locker room. We don't got time to be playing any of these games. We don't want to see Evan Fournier getting extended minutes. We don't want to see Alec Burks getting extended minutes. We want to see Cam get some legitimate minutes alongside RJ Barrett to see if that could be the duo of the future. And if not, then you don't make the deal. Because if not, because you're wasting the time to give up even though Knox wasn't much, but you wasted the first round pick you gave up. And now we have a player who's now more devalued at this point than when you traded for him initially. So it really makes no sense what this front office and this coaching staff were thinking when this deal was completed.
Yeah. And then having stories like you touched on that could, RJ signing the contract, but does he feel really good about, hey, they were dangling me. I thought I was part of this family, man. They treat me like a piece of meat, man.
RJ's the one guy I'm not worried about because RJ, you look at him, he seemed like a pretty headstrong individual, and he just got the bag. If he had any beef or any qualms with him being dangled, he probably wouldn't have signed the extension. I don't trust y'all. Go out, hit the free market and see if somebody will pay him more, and then they'll have to match. So RJ, I'm not too concerned about. It's more so
either.
Obi, Quick, and Grimes because those three guys are going to have a lot of pressure on them. And if you look at the way RJ Barrett was raised, he was kind of raised in the mold of he was going to be that guy, and he was kind of built to handle that type of pressure and that type of burden. So he's the one I'm not too concerned about. It's going to be the other three. And I think those three are going to be very important to the long-term health of the New York Knicks because they're either going to develop into solid role players for us or they're going to be trade bait. So I don't want them to hit the season and to struggle because they're always going to have to look over their shoulder knowing that the Knicks were very close to moving at least two of the three.
Yeah. And I think that whether Tibbs or whomever, they should sit down with these young men and say, hey, IQ, you shot 39% for your first 2 years in the league field goal percentage. It's not acceptable. If you want to be on this team long term, you have to be at least 44, 45. You shot 34%. I'll round it off 35% from three. We were hoping a little more. You're a great foul shooter, so we want you to build on that. I think they should sit down with every player, including RJ, and saying, nothing less than 75% foul. You shot 40% again. It all starts with foul shooting with these guys. It killed us last year as a team. A better foul shooting team. And it's funny when you compare RJ in his first few years versus a lot of the good players in this league, the thing that differentiates, he has, probably has a higher scoring average, but the thing that differentiates him from the other players is the other players are much better foul shooters and much better shooters from the mid range or, short, within the basket. So and that's why they have higher field goal percentages.
I hear you on that one, Foxy. So I closed the poll that I asked initially about SGA. 54% say the Knicks should not target SGA, stand pat, and build with what we have. And then we have 45% that say we should go out there, target SGA in a potential deal. So it's close, but the majority say we should kind of stand pat, which I can understand. We're just moving off of a trade for Donovan Mitchell. We kind of look a little bit desperate to then pivot straight from Spider and try to go after SGA. But I think if he is available and the Knicks are contacted about a potential deal, they should do all that's within their power to try and get a deal done outside of doing something crazy like giving up a player like RJ.
I'm with you. Buzzer Beater says, how do we know SGA is available? Bill Simmons podcast.
Yeah, this was discussed on the Bill Simmons podcast. Actually, let me put it back up for those who want to read it. Towards the bottom of it, he says, I had heard he was available before. So he may not be available at this moment, but he's a player that the Thunder have had trade discussions about. Not that they're shopping him, but if you do have a trade offer, they'd be willing to listen. So that's where we're seeing or thinking that he may be available.
Almighty Finesse, hope all is well. He said SGA's contract's absurd. Every max contract's absurd.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of weird when I was going through stuff that Jaylen Brown didn't get a max contract.
Yeah, what did he get? 107?
Yeah, he got. I'll tell you in half a second. He got. He got 4107 exactly, and that was in 2000. 4 years, 107 million, but that was in 2019. So inflation. RJ gets 4 year 120.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Brunson probably has one of the best contracts in the league because 107 for what he's able to provide you both on offense and defense. He's definitely underpaid.
Yep.
Let's see what else we have going on in chat. Manchester Deshaun, New York Knicks says get Randle out of here, give RJ the keys through Brunson, let Cam and Grimes get extended run so we know what we have. That's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah.
We got too many young, talented guys on this roster, and we're not right there, on the precipice of running a championship. So let's see what these young guys can do out there on the court. We're not going to miss out on anything by not playing Evan Fournier extended minutes. He's having a ball right now over in Europe, and when he comes over here, he can play his 16 to 18 minutes a night and knock down a bunch of threes. We thank him for breaking the 3-point record, but now we don't need him to have that much of a high or heavy workload. We just have him come off the bench. I mean, I'm more open to keeping Evan than Julius Randle because, like you said, he's still a killer 3-point shooter. It's just I don't want him out there long enough for teams to be able to attack him time and time again. Have him go up against the other team's second unit where they're not as effective breaking him down off the dribble and having us run around with our heads like we have no heads on defense.
Yeah, I play guitar, so I'm real sensitive to rhythm. And I've said for a long time that Julius Randle's a rhythm killer, man. There's something about him that just kills the flow of a game, his placement, what he does to other players. I hate rhythm, or I called him a rhythm vampire, actually. So I'd absolutely get rid of Randle before I get rid of Fournier. And especially since we got rid of Burks, we really don't have that many snipers.
Facts. Salute to Bricks Nation. I will definitely be watching House of Dragons tonight. Game of Thrones is my show, so appreciate you bringing it up. Fox, do you watch Game House of Dragons?
Nah, I do not. I do not. I watch crazy shows, but that's not one of them.
Well, it's been pretty good. The third episode comes on in about an hour or so. Yeah, pretty interesting. When you do get on, when you do start, you ever watch the first one either?
No, never saw one episode of Game of Thrones. So, I like Sopranos type of, I like, those type of stuff. I'm not really into dragons and stuff like that.
Game of Thrones, it is about the dragons. House of Dragons is more so about the dragons, but I like the politics and, operating behind the scenes, trying to, get your way or whatever the case may be. So I like to see how the characters interact.
Is there nudity in Game of Thrones?
Yeah, there's a lot of nudity.
Oh, then I'll definitely check it out.
There's definitely nudity in Game of Thrones. It's some weird stuff going on in Game of Thrones too. It's made only for premium TV because you can't put some of that stuff on Channel 11 or Channel 5. It's kind of crazy. Let's see. Buzzer Beater says Randle is deadly when he faces the rim, especially from the elbow. He kills the pace when he's in the post. He kills the pace when he has to dribble to get into the post. I think that's what happens. If he gets the ball and he's already in position, I think he's very decisive in what he's going to do with the ball. It's just the fact that when he has to try and fight his way into his spot, then he starts to get a little bit too dribble happy. And when he's too far away, he can't get to the basket. So he feels comfortable going back to that, Beyblade Randle where he's doing the spin move. He gets in trouble and then he leaves his feet. And now all hell breaks loose. And we got a turnover and the team's going the other direction. So that's my biggest issue.
And if we don't have a turnover, he kicks it out, and some guy says, "Shit, I have 4 seconds to put up a shot." and they're like saying, "I have a bad game today." Yeah, you try putting up a shot against NBA defenders with creating a shot with 4 seconds left on a shot clock.
Facts. Eddie Alvarez says Randle on the floor, everyone else's game goes down. Randle off the floor, everyone else's game goes up. I wouldn't disagree. I don't have the numbers for that specifically to verify, but eye test says you're speaking facts.
Yep. Especially energy. Look at the energy and the smiles on the face with Obi on second team, and then look on the face of the first team of everybody has to play with Rand.
Like night and day. The weirdest thing.
There was a play last year, folks, that I can't get out of my head that RJ was lighting it up. He comes down court, gets a rebound, comes down, gives it up, it comes down court, and he gets great position by the post, puts his hand up. to get the ball. Burks is playing point guard. Obviously, he's Tibbs' guy, and he goes to pass to RJ, and at the last second, Randle cuts in between RJ, and Burks gets the pass. RJ gets this weird look on his face, continues the rotation, and Randle makes a play, gets fouled, and Burks, the first thing he does, he walks over, whispers something to RJ, and you could just read his lips like, "I'm sorry, man. I was going to pass that ball to you. I didn't know that dude was going to do that." And they both looked at each other. So there's lingering stuff. Burks may not be there, but the guys on the team know the crap he pulled, not only, with his yelling at the refs and his bad attitude, but he did little things on the court that I mentioned is like sabotaging other players. If continue your rotation. What the hell are you doing? Especially RJ was eating. So it was like it didn't mean anything. It's like we always said, in his head, he's option number one, and that's always going to be, I think, Randle's issue. He can never get into his head. Now that Broadway Barrett got this contract, we brought on Brunson. That in his head, I'm not a third option or a potentially fourth option. Are you crazy? He'll always, I think, be a problem until we get rid of him.
Don Hines says Brunson's going to get tired of it in like 5 games. We hope Brunson gets tired of it. He's the point guard. He'll be able to say, "No, you're not getting the ball. Get out of here."
I think he keeps it real, man. If the players don't do what they're supposed to be doing, I don't think thinks that he'd have an issue in the world calling out those dudes in private.
Yeah, but you like that though. You like, especially from your point guard, that leadership.
Yeah, you can see he doesn't play, man. He does not play. He has a great reputation, but he's Villanova tough, man. He doesn't take that type of crap.
Don Hines says Kimber was tired of it in like a week. JJ asks, can Randle be effective?
We were tired of Kemba in a week too.
we liked Kimber a little bit longer than a week, maybe first 10, 15 games.
Yeah, until the realities of that knee set in, that he was limiting, that he could light it up because that's who he is. But
he can knock down the three.
He couldn't get, he can knock down 3, but he couldn't get to the hole anymore. And he was a turnstile on defense, not at the point of attack. So he got tired real quick.
JJ asks, can Randle be effective off ball? That's the major concern. Can he be effective off ball? I think he can. He has the tools to be effective off ball, but it's just the mindset and how he views himself as a player. I think, once he got that contract, once he had that success of 2 seasons ago, he pretty much viewed himself as one of the guys in the NBA. And I think when you're one of those guys, he probably sees himself as the guy that's supposed to have the ball in his hand and in clutch situations and in those key moments. So it's going to be hard for me to see him spend a lot of the time off ball.
Yeah, people hear the term read and react, and they just think of players with the ball. They're seeing what's happening on the court, they're reading and reacting. But actually, read and react is for everyone on that court, and especially the people without the ball. And that's where they're rotating and hitting the open lanes for shots and stuff. That's where, if you watch the game closely with Randle, if he doesn't get the ball, he basically sulks too, but he sulks, and he doesn't continue his rotation, throws off the spacing for everybody else, and it's a bad possession. So I don't see him. He's never been known to play off the ball well that way.
Yeah. And that's what makes it. That's why I think Obi is much better in the starting lineup. That's why we got to get rid of this Randle. Obi can get you 20 points and probably doesn't need to have the ball in his hands more than a few seconds.
He can get you 20 points with 2 jump shots. And that's powerful. Seriously, he can get 20 points between shots in dunks in transition, dunks off guys feeding him off the dunker spot, and shots on the foul line. So if you can get 20 points, because if you get 20 points on 2 jump shots, that means you're incredibly efficient.
Mm-hmm. And then imagine when Obi starts to be a little bit more consistent, knocking down the 3.
And he will be, folks. I just feel it. He's gotten better every year. He shot 30% from mid-range, 30% from 3. I definitely see those numbers going up. If he's still here.
Yeah, if he's still here. Let's see what else we have going on. Any comments you want to shout out, Foxy?
No, just again, hey folks, we have 193 in the chat. We have 119 likes. Thank you so much for getting us over that 100 metric. Do us a favor though, if you haven't hit like, hit like. If you have subscribed, thank you so much. Please tell a friend to tell a friend. If you haven't subscribed, as we always say, the reason why you should subscribe: one-stop shop for all Knicks news, rumors, and analysis. We work hard to make the content enlightening, sometimes controversial, but always entertaining. So please turn on that all reminder bell so you don't miss out on any of the wonderful content for Sports Vibe TV. Share the link on your favorite social media platforms. If you can't make the live chat, we love chopping it up with you. Please add your comments to the show, for the replay. And shout out to the best mods on the planet. We appreciate all you do.
Yeah, shout out to the mods: Lexa Destroyer, Julian Blum, Justin L. Am I missing anybody? Adele. Yeah, we appreciate you guys.
Canal, I believe.
Yeah, Canal, yep, I saw him in the chat as well. Thank you. We really appreciate all you guys do. Whenever anybody tries to mess up the live stream, you guys are always there. You're promoting the channel, and we greatly appreciate everything you do in support of the channel. So Foxy, we'll wrap it up there. Anything else you want to say before we sign off?
Just a quick question for you. Where's the place to be?
Sports Vibes TV.
Yeah. Hey, folks, I just do me a favor. Look at your bio watch every Sunday.
Bio watch.
Please set your bio watch from this point on. Sundays is Sports Vibe TV at 6:00. So it. So if you're just thinking, you wake up in the morning, you're smiling, thanking the Lord that a little later in the day, every Sunday, 6:00, Sports Vibe TV. It should be part of your being. So make sure that that's in your personal alarm clock from this point on. We can't wait to see you week after week.
We got to talk about that, Foxy, because the Giants play at 4:25 on Sunday.
Oh, Titans.
Yeah.
So good luck to you.
Yeah. We'll probably still start at 6, but I got to find a way to put a TV in here so I can at least have a game playing.
6-ish.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? 6-ish.
I was like, but we promise we'll be here in the 6-ish. Hey, Fritz Alcindor Jr., hope all is well. Legend in the Knicks fandom, hope all is well with you and your family.
Yep, thank you. Little envelopes, great stream, y'all. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, you saw the little, okay, beautiful.
Yeah. Salute to him. Thank you. Also, next week, you guys can join the live stream via phone. If you want, just make sure you check the Discord out. Link to that is in the description. You guys can join over the week. We'll chop it up, talk to you guys. And then on Sunday, if you want, you can always join the voice channel and join the call and talk with me and Foxy. So thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, I'm Keith, host of Sports Vibes TV, joined as always by my NBA analyst, Stephen Fox. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. We appreciate all you do. Thank you, and we're out.
Love you.